You know where your business would be without you. Imagine where it could go with more of you. Well, with Wix, you can create a website with more of your vision, your voice, your expertise. Wix gives you the freedom to truly own your brand and do it on your own, with full customization and advanced AI tools that help turn your ideas into reality. Grow your business into your online brand. Because without you, your business is just business as usual. Go to Wix.com.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Attack the Baseline, a WNBA podcast where every episode we attack our baseline knowledge of the WNBA. We're your hosts, John and Kristen Barber, and today we're back to start our team series throughout the regular season of the 2025 WNBA calendar with the Chicago Sky, digging into all the goings-on in Chicago. We had a couple wins to enjoy, so I'm looking forward to get into all of that detail, but before we do, Kristen, how are you?
Hello, everyone. I'm great. It was a pretty nice week to be following the Chicago Sky. We mentioned previously we were going to be fans of the Fever this week. Good thing we changed that because that was kind of a disaster for them.
To say the least.
But I had a great week. We went to a really fun watch party here in Philly on Friday. We had the Mystics Liberty game on the big projector, and then we had the Sun and Fever game like on a smaller TV in the back. So we had two games going. It was a lot of fun, a lot of energy. So shout out to Watch Party PHL. Go support them. They're trying to open the women's sports bar in Philly. So I've had a great week.
And if you have any names for what you would believe would be a good Philadelphia women's sports bar, you can hit them up because they are looking for the name of said bar. And we're tossing around ideas. We've talked to them about this a little bit. That's a tough thing to figure out what the name is going to be because you only can do that once. But yes, exciting event. Happy to be there. And really glad that Sun Fever game was as spicy as it was because the Liberty Mystics game was a little snoozy, but that's all right. So if you're new here, welcome. Happy to have you here as we continue to talk about the WNBA. If you'd like to reach out to us and let us know how you're feeling about the show or talk about your team or any topics that you want us to touch on, you could do so at our email, attackthebaseline@gmail.com, or connect with us on Bluesky or Instagram at ATBPod. Would also like to remind you that if you're interested in joining our giveaway for a signed copy of Dawn Staley's new book, Uncommon Favor, you can do so by checking the pin post on our Bluesky, do all the things it says, and then you're entered. We're going to be pulling that in the next couple days, so you've got a little bit of time if you're listening to this just now and finding out about it. But do check it out. Excited to get into the books ourselves. We haven't had a chance to read them yet, but just the takeaway of being in front of Dawn, it sounds like it's going to be a great thing to read through. So highly encourage you to just join the giveaway. Costs you nothing, supports the show, helps us grow, helps us get the word out about women's basketball. So let's get into today's discussion. Why don't, Kristen, you go over some of the news items that you've collected over the last week? Probably a couple little headlines, nothing too major.
No.
But then we'll talk all Chicago Sky after that.
Yeah, so just like a really zoomed out picture of kind of what happened around the league this week, just different games. Kayla McBride came back
Finally.
in the game on the 27th versus the Storm. She's been immediately impactful for the Lynx. Also in that game, Nafisa Collier was 3 blocks away from a 5x5.
Close. Very close.
She had the 5 steals
In the first quarter.
it basically,
Insane.
but she couldn't get the last 3 blocks, which is,
It's always hard. It's always so hard.
of course it's impossible. But that would have been really cool.
Would have been awesome.
But I guess in that game, she also got a little bit injured because she did not play in the next game. But in that game, Kayla McBride was the highest scorer. So great that Kayla was back.
Yes, a welcome return for Kayla McBride as the Lynx remain undefeated. A couple other players flirted with 5x5s this week as well. Asia was, I think, 2 steals and 2 blocks away from a 5x5. Paige Beckers, I believe, was also 2 blocks and 2 steals away from a 5x5. Of course, unfortunately, Paige is now in concussion protocol for a couple games, which kind of sucks. We missed out watching her this week when we were, paying attention to Chicago Sky and Dallas Wings games. But I kind of feel like the 5x5 is going to happen this year.
Yeah.
I know we talked about it very little last year on the pod because nobody really got too close to it. But I feel like so early in the season, we've got like 3 or 4 alarm bells of like, pay attention. The fact that Fee had 5 steals in a quarter, it means just like this stuff could happen. Now it's only ever happened one time in the history of the W. But we could be looking at number 2 this year. So like keep that on your radar. I know there's a lot of statistical accomplishments that have been going around in the news, but like a 5x5 is going to be something that we would emphasize. So like we're paying attention to it.
Also, we could talk about the Fever a little bit. The Fever, Caitlin Clark went down with a leg injury, projected to be back in the next couple days, but it did lead to the Fever losing to the Mystics on the 28th and the Sun on the 30th. The Sun, currently the worst team in the league.
Them or the Wings.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
And then the Mystics, not very far from that. So it was a really interesting set of games to see what this team can do without the player that it's all built around in Caitlin Clark. I think it's great for them to get this experience because what if you get all the way to the playoffs and she gets hurt in the playoffs? You're screwed.
Right.
You need to learn how to play without her a little.
Right. At least a little bit.
At least a little. So I think, honestly, it's good for them that they've gotten this experience. However, Sydney Colson also went down and Sophie Cunningham both went down in this game against the Sun. I don't think that they're really that hurt.
Okay. I wasn't sure about Sophie because I didn't see an update on that injury.
I haven't seen really any concrete updates. The ESPN Fantasy says they'll be back in a couple of days. What do they know? But that's really the only update I have. So that's an interesting situation.
It is.
In Indiana right now.
And look, like you said it's better to learn this now when you know that she's only out for 2 weeks. This is a minimal injury, not long term. Shouldn't affect her rhythm when she gets back. Gives you an opportunity to learn some different and let Stephanie White cook up some different offensive sets. Could probably use a little more Aaliyah Boston if I'm being completely honest. But they lost both of those games. So it seems like it's a tough thing to figure out. I mean, I've appreciated that DeWanna Bonner has had a larger role now that Caitlin is out of the picture, which, those two things shouldn't relate to one another. But, there's a lot of minutes open, so you can spread the team differently. But Indiana is, if they're going to be a true contender, sometimes true contenders have to go through difficult scenarios where they're losing some of their best teams and they got to overcome that. So this is your opportunity. You're going to miss a couple more games without her. So try to set it back, set it right, and go get wins instead of losses, or else things are going to get a little interesting in the standings.
Yes. Well, something that could have been really interesting was the Valkyries almost beat the Liberty on the 29th. That was like a really good game.
It was very good. We were pretty locked in on that one.
Jonquel Jones wasn't playing, which I think was a huge factor. I mean, just looking at the box score, like the Valkyries were out rebounding the Liberty, which is like not something that probably would have happened if Jonquel was there.
Right.
But they really like stayed in it the whole game. So really more power to them.
Yeah, I mean, they're continuing to play impressive basketball. They still only have 2 wins, but they are clearly scrappy and they're playing with chips on their shoulders. I think Coach Natalie Nakase is doing everything in her power to try to make the playoffs. I kind of feel that. I kind of feel like that's what the pursuit is, and that's what we have on our bingo board. So I wouldn't be upset with it.
True.
Don't know if it's going to happen, but, you know, if you're proving that you can contend with literally one of the 2 best teams in the league, then maybe you are already cooking early on in your team's history. So, yeah, more power to Golden State.
So cool for Golden State. And then really, I guess the last team related thing is Haley Jones has signed a hardship contract with the Mercury. She was drafted by the Dream, I think 2 years ago, and she was on the Dream, 2 years ago last year, but was cut in this off season.
Right.
But now she has signed with the Mercury because many players are hurt on the Mercury. Most recently, Alyssa Thomas was out the last game, and it seems like Lexi Held also got hurt in the game.
Right. So between that and still waiting on Ka, still waiting on Natasha Mack, got to go out and sign Haley Jones.
They had hardships. So
Yeah,
I'm glad.
correct.
I've always kind of been a Haley Jones fan. So I was kind of bummed that she got waived. So I'm glad she's back, and I'm excited to see her.
Yeah, definitely has some amount of upside. We had her making Atlanta's roster. They decided to go different ways, which is fine. Let's see what she can do, on a surprising Phoenix Mercury team that has been better than anticipated, in my opinion.
And my last little thing is lots of players have been wearing Asia Wilson's shoes, which is really cute to
Very
see.
cool.
A bunch of players wearing them already. But there's been lots of reports and instances where they have just flown right off during the games. So I don't know if something's happening with these shoes. I haven't worn them, that they aren't staying on players' feet. But it seems like it could be an issue.
It's interesting because I can't think of the player, but I feel like there was a scenario very similar in the NBA recently where there was an issue with somebody's brand new shoe. If this is true, or if this is something that you recall and you're an NBA watcher, send us an email and let us know. I really feel like this is more common than not when it's the first time that these shoes are getting under extreme use, which is why I think a lot of people wear a lot of the same shoes. We know a lot of people love the Sabrinas and the different types of Sabrinas. And, you might ask someone and that's the shoe that they wear because they're confident in that shoe. With the A1s, they might be a little untested and it might just take a tweak before they get there. But the fact that everybody's wearing them is still really fun and a lot of people off of the court, a lot of, normies are getting A1s. I've seen doctors wearing them, nurses. It seems very cool.
That's cute.
So yeah, we haven't had a chance to get our pair of A1s, but maybe someday.
So that's my news update. So we can dive deeper into the Chicago Sky.
Yeah, I think it's Sky time.
Lights, camera, innovation. Walt Disney Studios chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform the movie-making process. Together, we kept a remote production hub in Hawaii and sync with a team in California to bring Lilo and Stitch to theaters this summer. This is picture-perfect collaboration. This is Walt Disney Studios with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on boat market share data from ratefilings.com.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place. For changes big and small, loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? If you're a woman, you're not alone. With over 1,000 hormone disruptors in our environment, it's no wonder things can feel out of balance. On top of that, natural changes like PMS, menopause, and other life stages can leave you feeling tired, irritable, and trapped in a constant battle with your body. But here's the good news. You don't have to suffer through it. Hormone Harmony by Happy Mammoth is here to help. This herbal formula fine-tunes your hormones, balancing estrogen, testosterone, and even stress hormones like cortisol, which can contribute to weight gain, racing thoughts, poor sleep, and more. With over 40,000 five-star reviews and a bottle selling every 24 seconds, the results speak for themselves. Ready to feel like yourself again? For a limited time, get 15% off your first order at happymammoth.com using code NEXTCHAPTER at checkout. Visit happymammoth.com today and get your old self back naturally.
All right, so how do you want to do this? We had 3 games this week. We had a game against Phoenix and then a home and home against Dallas. Do you want to just start at the top?
Yeah, because I think the Phoenix game is a different story than the 2 Dallas games.
Sure. Starting 5. So what did we see in the starting 5? They had the same starting 5 in all 3 games. We've got Courtney Vandersloot, Kia Nurse, Ariel Atkins, Angel Reese, Camila Cardoso. That's your 5. They've locked it. I'm pretty sure that has been the starting 5 the entire season so far. The team currently 2-4. I have questions about it just off rip. We're going to talk about, how these players fared, but not shocking that you trade the 3rd overall pick. Ariel Atkins has to be a starter. Courtney Vandersloot comes back after all those years, has to be a starter. Angel and Camila are your, 2 horses that you drafted in last year's draft. They have to be starters. The Kia Nurse spot. Any initial opinions about how Kia Nurse has fared? Because I know what they want her to be, but I kind of feel like there could be a better option there in the starting lineup.
Yeah. So Kia Nurse, before this week, last week, I think she was playing horribly.
Yeah. I believe they mentioned in the Phoenix game that going into the game, she was 1 of 15 from 3.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she shot the ball better over these 3 games. I think she had 3 or 4 made threes in the middle game. She had a couple made threes in the last Dallas game. Phoenix game, it took her a little while to get warm again.
Yeah. I mean, she's currently averaging 8 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist.
Okay. So very limited stat sheet work.
Yeah, very. And honestly, I didn't really take very many notes about her.
No.
Because I don't really remember much of what she did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know she's taking shots. She's trying to shoot. I think she's very much just hitting a rough patch right now.
Yeah.
What, you want me to say who I think should be starting?
I not even necessarily in the Kia Nurse vein, because you can have your opinion. To be fair to Kia Nurse, she is a stalwart veteran of the W. She's been around the block. She's a professional. She knows what she's doing. She just has been, like you said, been going through a rough set of games recently. And maybe the shooting turning around a little bit makes it look better now that she's the fifth member of their starting five. But I just like overall critiques of the starting five after we've watched these games. Do you feel like there should be levers that Tyler Marsh should be pulling? Because I feel like you have an opinion.
Yeah, I definitely have an opinion. My opinion is Elizabeth Williams should be starting. Period. And I know that kind of gives you, like, if you're replacing her for Kia Nurse, that gives you 3 bigs.
Mm-hmm. Don't think
and,
that
like,
will work.
We're already having some issues with our 2 bigs.
Correct.
But, like, I think Elizabeth Williams is a more effective, better all-around player, defensively, offensively, than, at least right now, Kia Nurse.
Sure. Yes. Full starting point. Elizabeth Williams was probably the player that I enjoyed watching the most over these 3 games. Maybe Courtney Vandersloot, which we're going to give her plenty of flowers because she had a major accomplishment this week as well. Ariel Atkins was good as well. But Elizabeth Williams is just trusty. Just a trusty veteran presence. She's played really well in what we've seen thus far. Capable jump shooter. And, you know, she has a nice little midi. She's got really good touch. And there are moments where I look at the offensive sets of this team as they're currently running lineups, and they like don't know where to go. And there are some of these plays that break down that end in offensive rebounds. The team is very good on the offensive rebounding side of the ball. Camila and Angel are both, you know, top. Last year they were top 2 in offensive rebounds between the 2 of them. So the team's very good at rebounding. Elizabeth Williams is also very good at rebounding. But some of the like the nothing plays that I see Elizabeth Williams turn into points for this team, I think are very valuable. And she only had a 9-game run last year before she got hurt. So I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing. I think she's also a good screener.
Like the best one on the team.
And I think that's like something that like should be considered. I kind of agree
And
with
like,
you.
especially in this situation that the Sky's in right now, where they have a losing record, they haven't been playing particularly well. Like, clearly things can be experimented with, I think. And like, but I guess they are in some sense, because in this previous game, in the most recent game against Dallas that was on Saturday, Elizabeth Williams played more minutes than Camila Cardoso did. I think simply because Camila was in lots of foul trouble.
You're right.
So like she maybe could be, you know, she's playing more minutes than a starter. It's just like a weird situation.
Sure. It's weird because like they're going to play all 3 bigs a considerable number of times. So like maybe it does end up like she's playing more minutes than one of Camila or Angel at the end of the day, and she's just not starting, which is kind of weird because like she could play the 4 or the 5.
Yeah.
She could kind of play either position. I just think like very good player, very underrated player, Elizabeth Williams, and she deserves credit for that. I want to zoom out a little bit and say, you know, Chicago 2-4 right now, tied with the Fever 2-4, a 9-10 spot just outside of the playoffs. Obviously, this isn't how Chicago would have hoped their season started, but I do want to point out that like they could have won 3 games this week. They were up 16 on Phoenix. They lose that game, sort of choke that one away at the end. We'll talk about it in specifics in a little bit. And then they win back-to-back against Dallas, who, you know, teams are picked on Dallas a little bit. But maybe some positive momentum their way. If I had to guess at this point in time where they would have been if this was the first, after 2 weeks, I probably would have put them at 500, maybe 3-3. So they're slightly under where I would have expected them. But I think by the end of the week, I've liked more of what I saw than at the beginning of the week. So I think things are righting in Chicago here.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think you got this like bad loss against the Mercury out of the way, and then 2 really good wins against the Wings. So I do think they're on the up and up.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of this week, I think it was the game before they played the Mercury, where Angel became the fastest player to get 500 points and 500 rebounds. They said 6 games quicker than Tina Charles. We heard 7 somewhere, one of the two. Tina Charles, my GOAT. So that's like, that I think is a good stat from Angel.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Proof on both sides of the ball here for Angel. And this week her offense wasn't particularly potent, but her rebounding is still impressive. Like she is good in that scrum under the basket when there's 3 defenders around her and she puts up a shot and misses it. She is still able to get that, corral that miss and turn it into a second chance basket.
Yeah. So also coming into this week, no players on the Sky were averaging double figures.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was kind of jarring. I was like, you're seriously, not one person is scoring more than 10 points a game?
Like none. More than 9 points a game.
Right. 9.9.
But I did just check, and many of them are now.
Should be.
Scoring. Like, Sloot, Angel, Camilla, Ariel Atkins, all of them are now averaging more than 10.
Learning how to score the basketball. Good.
Yes, very good. A lot of improvement this week. So this first game against the Phoenix Mercury, the Sky was winning a lot of the game. They were up by 10 in the third quarter. They got to a really hot start. Ariel Atkins had like 10 points real quick in the first quarter. But then they just got slower and more sloppy as the game went on. And they ended up losing this game, which was really upsetting because it seemed for most of the game like it was going to be kind of an easy win.
Right.
And they just ended up choking it away. But I do want to give a lot of that credit to Alyssa Thomas, of course. But I think Camilla and Angel Reese, they were guarding AT well at the beginning of the game. And then AT just, learns from it and learns how to get around them. So at the end of the game, Alyssa Thomas was bullying them, and that kind of ended up making the difference at the end.
Yeah. I think the story of, largely, the story of the week for me is that Chicago definitely has a turnover problem. They are prone to turning over the ball. When we look at the season totals thus far, they're second worst in the league in turnovers, just ahead of Washington, just behind the Sparks. So they are playing a little sloppy with the ball, to say the least. That's what cost them this first game because, 4-point lead going into the fourth. Obviously, that's a little bit slim, but you were leading throughout the game here. It takes those turnovers for Alyssa Thomas to get back in the game. And one of the funny things that the announcers in this case said, it was the Phoenix broadcast, which I wrote down because I can't believe that they said this, was while Chicago was leading, because at this point Chicago is 0-3 going into this game. They said, Chicago doesn't know what to do with this kind of a lead.
They were right.
And they were right. This was probably when they were up by double digits after Ariel, hits another 3. And I'm like, we were watching a replay of this game, so we knew that they lost. But to hear that and be like, oh, they're so right, was kind of rough.
Yeah, they really cursed them right there.
Yeah. But, sometimes this happens, and hopefully that was what the wake-up call was that led them to win win the other 2 games. But like there was also some bad defense at the end of that game as well, not just the turnovers. Unfortunately, like right now, they are the worst defensive rating team in the league. They're giving up the most points per 100 to their opponents. When you watch them, you feel like they're a defensive minded team, but clearly statistically they're not. It's not coming across that way. And they got destroyed in their first game against Indiana. So like that's going to elevate their numbers, but like they're struggling to figure out their defensive identity for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think because when you have Camilla and Angel guarding the post in, by the basket, it's like impossible for people to get around them. Like the 2 of them guarding you, double teaming you, like that's good defense. So scoring around the basket, I don't know how deep these stats go, but like scoring around the basket seems like it is hard and they are good defensively. But like I don't really think their guards are great defensively. Like,
well, yeah, Sloot is small.
Sloot is small and older.
Kia Nurse is not particularly, she's like average.
Right. Ariel Atkins is small. So like definitely their guards, not great defensively.
No. And they also did not have a very good, and this is partially because of their guards. They didn't have much defense on the perimeter, and Phoenix got crazy hot from 3. One of the notes that I wrote here is that like Phoenix has 4 rookies that are just killing it from beyond the arc. And all these rookies were undrafted. And I'm like, I wrote in my notes, like, who's scouting for Chicago? That couldn't bring in one of these rookies. Like three-point shooting was a problem for Chicago last year. And it was the one thing that I said, you need to improve on this year.
Well, which I do think they did.
And they did.
They did. With Sloot and with Ariel Atkins, they did.
Right. But in that first game, when I'm really paying attention, they didn't shoot as much as Phoenix. Phoenix was crushing them from deep. That got Phoenix back in the game, and they lost. If they had made another 3 or another 2 threes, then they probably end up taking that game away from Phoenix. Now, I'll say later in the week, their 3-point shooting was better, and they're like top 5 or 6 right now, so middle of the pack in terms of their 3-point attempts per game. That is what I want to see. And I'm glad, because they're shooting like a normal team, when last year they would shoot like 9 threes. Now they're shooting like 25. So it's good. So I just want to say, like, it wasn't good in that game, but they are better than they were last year. So this is the arc that we're following with the Chicago team.
Good.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on boat market share data from ratefilings.com.
Surprise bill? Need fast funds? CashNet USA can help. When you need money fast, be the hero.
Apply in minutes at cashnetusa.com and get a fast decision. All loans subject to lender approval. Speed of funding is subject to verifications and your bank's processing times.
Did you know 39% of teen drivers admit to texting while driving? Even scarier, those who text are more likely to speed and run red lights. Shockingly, 94% know it's dangerous but do it anyway. As a parent, you can't always be in the car, but you can stay connected to their safety with Greenlight Infinity's driving reports. Monitor their driving habits, see if they're using their phone, speeding, and more. These reports provide real data for meaningful conversations about safety. Plus, with weekly updates, you can track their progress over time. Help keep your teens safe. Sign up for Greenlight Infinity at greenlight.com/podcast.
Okay, well, we can talk about the 2 games against the Wings. They had a home and home against the Wings. They won both of them. The Sky did. The first game was closer. The second game they won, I think, pretty handily, especially at the end. But I think there's some takeaways we can take away from both of these games, even though they were both pretty good wins. First, I'll say Courtney Vandersloot passed her wife, Allie Quigley, for the most points all time for the Sky.
So awesome.
Just such a cool, little storyline. And Allie Quigley was there in the audience with their new baby.
Yes.
Wow, this is so wholesome and sweet.
Little Vanderquigs. They also showed Quigley out there with her phone doing the Mean Girls recording you're doing great, sweetie type of thing. And
yeah,
it was really special. And they interviewed Allie Quigley and said how cool is this? She's it's really cool. It's obviously meaningful for her. It stays in the family, which is also great too. She's not losing her record to some other random player. She's losing it to her wife, which is really cool.
Yep.
Yes, gotta give Sloot her flowers there because it was a topic of conversation the entire game, and it took her until I think midway through the third to finish it off. Exceptional stuff from Courtney Vandersloot.
Yep. So I think we can talk about players in general over these 2 games.
Yeah.
So first, I'll say Camila Cardoso. She had the first 10 points in this first game against the Wings. Just hot right off the bat.
All 10.
And I was expecting that because the Wings don't have, that many good post players that can guard Angel and Camilla. So I was oh, Camilla, they're going to have good games. Well, she had an amazing first 5 minutes. And then the next 2 games, the rest of this game and the next game, she's just in foul trouble the whole game.
Yep.
And honestly barely played.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough because I think she has the highest upside, let's say. Angel, obviously exceedingly bright future as well. I think Camila Cardoso, if everything panned out, could be the best player in the league, in theory. And she didn't show it this week. So, you got to be tough and critical sometimes. The foul trouble is rough and is clearly something that she has to work through. But when you see it happen, that she scores these first 10 points so easily for this team, it makes me question why they don't try to feed her the ball more often in these 2 games specifically. I feel sometimes it's easy for a big to just get the ball in the post and go to work. And it just didn't seem like it was something that they wanted to do.
Well, they literally couldn't. In the second game, they literally couldn't. She wasn't playing. She had 5 fouls.
Sure.
But this game, yeah, I agree. And I do think they did feed her a lot, but I don't know. She ended up having a lot of points that first game, way more than I would think that she would have, because I just barely noticed because she had so many fouls. She was out a lot of the time. And I will just say, I don't mean to be harsh on Camila Cardoso. I don't necessarily agree with you that she can be the best player in the league. I think, of course, she has potential to be better and to grow. She had an amazing off season in China, and maybe partly that's why I'm maybe a little disappointed. I just was hearing so much about her play in China and all of the amazing games she had. And I was expecting her to have grown so much when she comes back to the W. I have heard, playing in China is comparatively easy place to play in. And if she really wants to grow, she has to perhaps go to a different country. But I just think like she needs to get tougher on the court.
Sure.
She needs to be more grounded. She needs to she is big. I don't know. Like maybe she needs to like get more muscle. She needs to hit the weight room. I don't know. She just needs to like get tougher and like assert herself more, especially like around the basket. Like she shouldn't be getting blocked.
Sure.
She shouldn't be missing layups. I don't know, just like none of that.
Angel too.
Yeah, Angel too,
Like,
but just like Camilla in particular.
Sure.
I don't know. I think just being more forceful, more assertive.
Sure. And, only a 3-game sample here for us this season and only a 6-game sample on the entire season. And she's a second-year player. So, like, yes, these are all things that she'll need to improve on if she wants to be the best version of herself on the court. And we believe in that. Just want to see it in action. So I would hope that the coaching staff as well has a plan to build that out. That's all what my emphasis is here. Make sure that like they're making it a priority that she is a player that they want to grow and build the team around for the future. Because they could always be rough if things got wild. Yeah, I mean, I'll let me credit players as well from what I saw. If we're just talking about in general, Rachel Banham. I'll talk about Rachel Banham. Her 3-point shot is pretty, and I get why she's had games where she can knock down 7 or 8 threes. And I saw mock starting fives where she was in the starting 5 for this team. Just because of the way that she can shoot the ball. Mm-hmm. But I will believe in that shot. It's one of the nicer shots I've seen in the league. So just want to give credit to Rachel Banham there, and to bring it back to Elizabeth Williams and how heady of a player she was when she had opportunities against Tierra McCowan in both of these games here. She was like, some of the face-up game that she had against her was awesome. There was a end of shot clock, or as the time was expiring in one of the quarters, she forced Tierra McCowan to foul her, like just went hard at her, forced the foul to get to the line so that she could score a couple more before time ran out there. I just want to give her credit again because I know we talked about her earlier, but like she's just a smart basketball player. Mm-hmm. And if we're giving credit out where credit is due, she's someone that also deserves credit there.
Yeah, and I will say Elizabeth Williams to me seems like the best like pick and roll pick setter on this team.
Mm-hmm. You did say that.
Like this is definitely something that Angel and Camilla need to be working on.
Sure.
Where they'll like go to set a screen so like Sloot can get around them, and then they move like half a second too soon.
Right, like they're not sticking for long enough.
They're not standing still and like blocking the defender, and then the defender goes right and like can block Sloot. Mm-hmm. I'm like, just stand still, please. Stand still for 2 seconds. And like Elizabeth Williams is so much better at this, so good at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, more veteran presence. Like they should all be working on that together. Mm-hmm. Everyone's just setting picks.
Yeah.
Setting picks and letting Sloot go to work. Mm-hmm. Letting Kia Nurse go to work. I don't know.
And like, I am not someone who's like trying to critique pick and rolls. Like that's not like why I'm watching basketball, but it just really stood out to me. Like what, I don't know. Like you just have to, I just feel like a lot of the time, particularly Angel, like we can talk about Angel, and I feel like one of the things that Angel can be working on is just more patience. I think that comes into play with the pick and rolls, where she just has to, slow down for a second and set this screen fully so that her teammates can get around her and she blocks the defender. I think she also, a couple times I saw where like she got the ball thrown to her, she's by the basket, she's going for a layup, and she like jumps up when there's a defender right in her face.
Mm-hmm.
That's like jumping in her face and then jumps out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just wait 1 second for this defender to get out of your face, and then you can like make your layup.
Yeah. Instead of letting them swat at the ball.
Right. And then she was blocked 7 times.
Yeah.
Basically back to back to back to back to back.
It was, yeah, they were in quick succession.
Right. In this second Dallas game. So I think particularly Angel just needs to like slow it down.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure that that's hard.
Oh, yeah.
You're trying to win. You're trying to go. You need to have a lot of energy. But I think she can learn to slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, and if we want to do positives for Angel, she got to the line a ton, and she made her free throws at a decent clip. She looked good from there. That's going to be an important part of her game, because if she's not completing these buckets, then there are going to be plenty of times where she's getting hacked, and they're going to blow the whistle. So you need to be good at the free throw line. Not something that she was the best at last season, but it's something that players always improve on year to year. And I think that's something that she practiced. So I want to give her credit there. And she looked a lot better. She was finishing her shots, particularly at the end of the second Dallas game. So Angel, had a lot of ups and downs this past week, but she's not a player that should be written off. Mm-mm. Like, she's going to continue to work, and she's going to continue to work hard, and we're going to continue to see growth from her.
Her kind of on-court chemistry with Haley Van Lith, I thought was great.
Yep.
Which I was looking forward to watching because they played together in college. And I think Haley Van Lith, she didn't play the first game. She played the second two. Mm-hmm. She, I think, has the best ball handling, second to Sloot probably, on this team.
Yeah.
Like, everyone else, like Butterfingers, I can't hold on to this ball. Uh-huh. But Haley Van Lith was really good.
Yeah.
In these 2 games. Not that she's scoring a lot, but just like getting around players and passing and creating the plays. I thought HVL was a really good addition.
Yeah. I mean, she came in when they were kind of offensively stuck in that second Dallas game and just helped establish, like, they started passing the ball better, all together passing the ball better when she was there. And there were some stretches where everyone on the entire team, especially at the end of that second Dallas game, where the passing was really good and really promising. All 5 players touching the ball. That's a beautiful play that ends in a bucket. And like, that seems to be something that Haley is good at, and something that when they're in times of struggle, that she can come in and sort of restart the offense and bring it back to life so that they can figure out how to score the ball again. Mm-hmm. While we're continuing talking about players, Ariel Atkins shouldn't leave her behind here, because she is going to be the best offensive player on this team. They're going to rely on her to be a scorer. The announcers said they made this move to make her the star. They want her to be a star. You don't trade the 3rd overall pick unless you believe in that player. And really good shooting on really good efficiency. She had 26 points on 8 made attempts in the second Dallas game. Really good stuff. She can get to the line. She's a good mid-range. She's a good 3-point shooter. She should be perfect for this team. So even the small windows where she kind of went invisible, that happens sometimes for players, they need to make sure that they're figuring out how to best use her. And I believe that they're starting to figure it out now that they're getting in the win column. Ariel Atkins, I didn't necessarily give them the most credit when they made that move. She's good. Is she 3rd overall pick? I don't know. But they're certainly going to try their darndest to make it look like that. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to see that she can at least score the basketball when they need her to score the basketball.
Mm-hmm. No, I enjoyed watching Ariel Atkins.
Mm-hmm.
I think she is a good player. She is a good 3-point shooter. She got hot in these games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think she's great.
Yeah. Anybody else you want to talk about? I could add, I just going through my notes, Kayla McBride could use a little bit more of her. We only saw a limited run from her, but good player. Very good player.
Yeah, what I noticed about Kayla McBride is like just on so many plays when she was in, she was just like standing parked in the corner, waiting for the ball to get passed to her. And a couple times it did, and a couple times it went in. But the plays that they have drawn up for her at this point are mostly just like her doing a catch and shoot 3. So perhaps that she can get more ingrained in other ways.
Yeah. Figuring out the rotations, clearly. I mean, like we said, the only player on the roster that we didn't see play was Maddie Westbeld, and she's a rookie. So it's not really surprising that she's going to be on the back of the bench. But overall, while I was frustrated at times with Chicago watching them, I do think they're out of their funk at least a little bit now that they got 2 wins. Of course, Dallas is at the bottom of the table. You got to go beat a real team. Even though people would argue that Dallas is a real team, Dallas is just trying to figure it out. A lot of new pieces. That's why Dallas is losing these basketball games. I'm not trying to take anything off on Dallas. They're all good players. Just haven't played team basketball quite yet. Chicago, I'm hopeful will continue to have another good week. If we look at the schedule of what's coming up for Chicago, the first 2.5 weeks of June is going to be the Commissioner Cup. So each team in each conference is going to play their conference rivals one time. And because of the way that has to work, Chicago doesn't play another game until the 7th of June. We're recording this on the 1st. They played yesterday. They're going to have a whole week off. So that means coaching staff better be getting in the gym and figuring it out how we can keep this momentum going, because maybe they're going to have a lot of time off, and that might be too much time off.
I think that may kill this momentum.
They have a big game coming up against Indiana on the 7th. Will Caitlin be back?
Perhaps.
If she's not, you better go take care of business there. And if she is, you better go play better than you did when you started in Indiana. They're coming to you in Chicago. You give them the business. Don't take it like it was the last game. I believe in that. I believe that it'll be better. And then you have New York 3 days after that, and then Atlanta 3 days after that. Do I believe that Chicago can be a Commissioner Cup team? I'll be frank. I don't believe so. However, you win that Indiana game and you compete with Atlanta in that Atlanta game, you never know. You never know. That is kind of rough, though, that we talk about, they've got positive momentum and now they've got so much time off.
Really a week off.
I really hope they're working on something. I really hope they're working every day to stay right and not become complacent after a two-game win streak.
Yep.
Anything else on Chicago? Their outlook in your eyes?
I mean, I think they have a positive outlook. I think this is a fun team, like a rootable team. Like Sloot, I love watching Sloot. And I love seeing how Angel and Camilla are growing. And I hope to see that continue. I think a lot of people keep saying, a lot of what I hear is that like one of them needs to be traded. And I don't think that that's true.
No.
Like they can learn to play well together. Angel is learning how to play further away from the basket. She's shooting a couple long twos and she's passing the ball, bringing the ball up the court. So they're working on it. It's still a young team. I think, their rookies seem promising. So you're right. I don't see them winning a championship. But that's fine. Like they're figuring it out. The coach, it's a new coach, a whole new coaching staff. So I'll enjoy watching them as much as I can.
Sure. Do you feel like your preseason preview of the sixth ranked team?
I had them 6th.
6th, and I had them 10th.
Yeah, I'd maybe move them down to like 8.
Okay.
Or
You still believe in them as a playoff team, though?
Yeah, I think they're really going to try to make the playoffs after just barely losing last year.
Have to.
I think they are really trying to make the playoffs.
No reason for them to not try their darndest.
When they don't have a pick. They don't have their own pick.
Correct. They do have a pick.
So you might as well try to not give the Lynx a really good lottery pick.
Correct. Well, that's about everything that I have on Chicago here. Again, really nice to get them on a positive upswing week. Happy to see that, because I think there was a lot of negativity around them, and I'm just happy to be here for good news. If you would like to contact us, again, you can do so at our email, attackthebaseline@gmail.com. Connect with us on Bluesky or Instagram at ATBPod. Enter the giveaway for Dawn's book. Check out our Bluesky pinned message. And next week, we're going to be checking out the brand new team to the WNBA, the Golden State Valkyries, with listener Tim, our friend. Excited about that. And, well, as we do, I am staring at the baseline, and what are we going to do?
Attack it.
Attack the baseline. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back soon with the Golden State Valkyries. Bye.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on boat market share data from ratefilings.com.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/podcast.